Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel, and anybody that's new, welcome. So today we are going to make a Jenga block HoHoHo centerpiece. I was inspired by a fellow crafter named Jason in one of the crafting groups I'm with. I'm gonna do mine a little bit different. I loved it because it was Jenga blocks, and thought I'd put my own spin on it. I am gonna use a lot more than he did. I just want to make mine a little bit more sturdier. Just because I seen it with hot glue, and I'm not a fan of hot glue. Like I always tell you, working with Jenga blocks, I always say use good glue. I use Wellbond. You can get it at Rona/Lowe's. You can order it online. A lot of Hobby Lobbies. Sorry, Nikki, his fellow crafter, told me you can get it at Hobby Lobby. You can get it at Amazon, but I usually get the bigger bottle, and I'm going to show you when I buy it at Rona. I usually buy the bigger bottle only because you get a lot more for, I think it's like $3 or $4 more. And this one's 160 and 420. And then I pour it into the smaller bottle. It's just easier to work with when I am gluing the pieces together. The Jenga blocks are from DT. You can get them in, excuse me, in the kids section. They come in a brown box. You can also get them in a blue box. Some crafters told me they can order them to their store if their store is sold out. Now, not all stores apparently do this. With the fall already here, you can check on the dollartree.com for my fellow Americans. In Canada here, we don't do any shipping. It's in-store only, but DT usually gives out a flat rate shipping coupon. They did that last year when you sign up for their newsletter. And just check your emails because they'll have like a flat rate of $5.99, and that's shipped to your house in case you want to buy a box. I've heard different stories. Some people say you have to order a case, and then I heard others saying you only had to order 6 boxes. You can also befriend staff at your local DT. My staff in the couple stores that I shop at are really great. If I'm looking for something, we usually text each other back and forth when stuff comes in, or they hold it until they see me the next time, which is almost every other day. They're amazing to work with. I started out with the bigger blocks originally, only because I couldn't find the ones for DT prior to the pandemic. But any builds I do, you can use this bigger blocks. The only difference is going to be size. I did show on my Facebook page, the Crafty Shopper, I did show the nutcracker I made last year /soldier from the big blocks to the little blocks, and it is quite a big difference. But you still can use the bigger blocks if you want. It's just going to be a lot bigger. I do suggest going to the hardware section in DT and getting the Carpenter ruler, L-shape ruler. Works really well when you are gluing your blocks together. And I'm just going to show you here. I have a little box of them. When you're gluing them together, it's keeping them nice and straight. I do pre-glue a lot of the builds, not all of it, but just so the video can go faster and it's not super long. When you're gluing them together, you can move them like that once you have the glue on. Now, in my videos, I will talk about flat and stacked. This video, they are all stacked, but I will mention it again. When I say flat, it is gluing the blocks flat just like this. And it turns out like that. When I say stacked, it will be the wider section you glue together just like that. And it just like that. I do suggest having a pen and paper, sometimes just with all the numbers with blocks we do. This one's an easier build to do, but I do suggest writing it down so you don't have to keep coming back and watching the video. I do put in the description of this video the number of blocks used, so if I ever miss saying the total count, you could always go back to the description of this video and find the total amount of blocks. I also wanted to suggest my name is, not suggest, just a reminder that my name is Debbie. I know a few people have tagged me, contacted me on the Facebook saying that this Debbie person has been stealing your builds when it's actually me. So my name's Debbie. All right. First thing, we are going to start with the base. We're not going to start with the Jenga blocks. I just wanted to go through that before we get to that. I'm going to use this piece. Isn't this just a cool piece from DT? I wanted it a little bit longer, but I did not want to go to the store to buy one that was longer. So was going to go to the hardware store, but this one actually fits, and it just fits perfect. I tested it. The length is exactly okay. I would have just liked it a little bit bigger, but that's okay. You can get these with different sayings in DT. They are in the craft section where they have little knickknacks and stuff like that. Just going to start off with this, and I am going to paint it with the DT black paint. All right, now, so we're going to do the H's. I just wanted to mention the one thing when you're painting, and when you look on the other side, I don't know if you, it's a little bit hard to see, but yesterday I could notice I could still see the letters. So I just painted the other side, which was more clear, instead of having the letters show through. It's going to be covered anyways, but I just flipped it over and did the other side. Now with the Jenga blocks, with the H, the one that I seen Jason had was just basically, I think they were just 2 blocks. I'm gonna flip that around. 2 blocks like that. I'm just assuming I quick look when I saw it. And then the T, I just wanted something a little bit more sturdy. You never know if little fingers are touching it, and it's easier to glue when they're a little bit more solid. So I am going to do them stacked. Each H is going to be 30. So you're going to do stacked 13, stacked 4, and you're going to stick it and you're going to glue it in between the 13. So it will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So there's the 7 mark, and you're going to want to glue that right in the middle of the 7th block. And then you're going to do another side of 13 right in the middle of the 7 block, and it's just going to be like that, and you're going to glue it. Now when you glue it, this is not fully dry. I can still see the white because Well Bond does go clear. I'm going to wait till it's fully dry, and then I'm just going to take a buffer. You can use the sanding pad from the DT, the hardware section, and you're just going to want to sand that off just so that the glue, because if you do paint over that, it does leave a mark, and you can see under the paint where the glue was sat. All right, so each one's 30, so a total of 90 blocks for this tutorial, and I promise this one we won't add any more blocks. You can see the little white parts here if you're new to my channel. I started back a while ago using spackle. It's just like hole filler for your wall. You can buy it at DT. Fellow crafters have said. I've personally never saw it in my local DT. I like to put it in only just to fill the cracks. As you can see here, where the white is majority where the cracks, and when you paint it, it actually makes it look more smooth and not so blocky. A little bit more, I think, would be more professional, a little bit nicer. So I did these ones already. When the spackle that I use is pink, but when it dries, it turns white. And then you can just use, I use a nail file for a little buffer, or you can just find some of the crafting buffers, or there's the bigger one. I don't have it in front of me right now in the hardware section. And I just take a knife, and I'm not going to do all of it. I just want to do the front of it so it just looks a lot nicer. Just fills the holes, and where you see, as you know, the blocks are uneven, so sometimes it just makes it look a lot smoother. It does make it a lot look smoother, and it actually just looks a lot nicer, I find, when you paint it. Now if you were going to stain them, for example, I would not suggest using stain on any of the blocks. And I also just want to touch base because I've had a few people reach out to me saying that their builds weren't sticking, and a lot of people are telling me they use hot glue. Now, the only thing with hot glue is when you use hot glue, the blocks don't stick close together, and eventually they will come apart depending on the temperature. For example, people have used hot glue and put them on their reef. Now, depending where you live, in the US or Canada, when it gets cold, the glue, if they get bumped, they will fall off, and vice versa. In the summer, when it's super, super hot, the glue will loosen up. I don't want to say melt. I guess it just depends on where you live, but they will pop off. So I don't suggest using hot glue at all for the blocks unless you are just gluing a couple pieces on. And that was my only suggestion about that. Also be aware of the glue that you use to make sure, watch the drying time. Some people get a, you know, I do myself. I usually do it at the end of the day or when I'm only going to be doing crafts for a little bit and then I got to do something else, cook dinner, do laundry, and leave my stuff, and I just let it dry because they won't come apart once you let it dry. But if you play with it while it's still trying to seal, because you got to remember when the blocks are getting squished together, they still got to take time to dry in between. Another thing that I did want to mention, when you are using certain builds, when you use hot glue, and that goes for any craft, when you use hot glue and another glue, say Well Bond, for example, or Gorilla Glue or anything like that, when you are using those two glues together on any project, don't let them touch because it will not seal. All right, I'm gonna finish this up and I'm gonna buff them and then I'm gonna paint them, and it's my favorite red color from DT is the Tuscany red. Now that we painted the H's, we're gonna add some ribbon around it. Just grab some DT satin ribbon. I'm gonna start with the back. And if you see how blocky you see it, and you can see kind of the grooves in it, and then how much smoother putting the spackle. I just really love it. I'm just gonna put a little bit of hot glue. Try to put it flat. Put it on. Just kind of making sure it's centered. I'm gonna wrap it around and make sure it's even in between the blocks there. And then you're just gonna hot glue it. I'm just gonna make sure the angle that I don't want to stick my head underneath the camera, and you're just gonna hot glue it there. Now that we have the ribbon all the way around, I have these sheets and they're almost kind of like, I don't even know what kind of material. It's like a cheap plastic bag or something like that. Now I got sheets like this from Dollarama. Maybe they come in sheets like this. If you have Dollarama, you're here from Canada, they're like $2 for 4 different types of sheets. This one I had for the gold. If you don't have that, that's fine too. We're going to put a buckle on it. So if you have just even like thin foam paper, you just cut out a little design. What I did was when I cut it into a rectangle, I actually bent the shape and then I just cut the little section out for the inside of the buckle. It was just a lot easier to do it that way. Now, if you use foam paper, it doesn't matter what type of foam paper you use. You could just put some Mod Podge, but you would use this, this one here. Use the gloss one, and then over the paper, you could just put some of that with some glitter, some gold glitter, if you don't have this paper. And once that's done, we're just going to put a little bit of Mod Podge on it, and then we're going to just glue it right on to the center of the H in the middle. Now that I finished all 3 of the H's, they're all done. We're going to put it on here. I still have a little bit of red marks because I sat it on here and I left it over. I think it was a little bit of the red paint got on, but that's okay. On the top, we are going to use the H's, and we're going to use these ornaments from DT. I'm just going to take this off here. We're not going to hot glue the H's down. We're going to actually use Well Bond. But I'm going to start from one side. So the end side needs to be, I'll do it long ways like this, needs to be to the end. Just like that. Then we're going to stick one of the balls, but I want to do something different. We're going to take these off and I'll show you that once the H, I want to glue the H's on first before we play around, and there's a reason for that, which I'll show you later. We're just going to place this one, but we're going to use the hot glue. I'm going to do it upright off camera. Then we're going to grab another H. We're going to put it right there. Just want to see how much spacing. Then we're going to grab another one. Don't fall over. Hold that there. Then we're going to add the other H. And then the other one's going to be on the end. I'm going to move this over. So these greens are a little bit tight, but we're going to trim those down. We're going to do something a little bit different. I just want to make sure that this end piece and this end piece, that the ball is even, because I'm kind of like that. So it's just sticking out a little bit, and it's just the rim of that. I don't want them to be touching. I'll just move this over just a little bit. And I think it's just going to be just like that, as long as. So we're going to glue the H's just like that. I'm going to do it upright and then pull the balls out and then glue them down. So on the balls, we are going to take all the tops off. There's a little hole in there. I didn't like how it was totally squished down. I'm just going to take one of these little, just one of these little bells. I'm just going to stick it in the hole there. A bell on a bell. Now, they're a little bit long. I'm just going to twist it up a little bit, the pine cone forward. And I'm just going to trim it. As you can see, I was already trimming one already. Just a little bit shorter, going around. Only because they touch the side of the H's. And don't want them touching them too much. You're just going to loop this back in. You can switch the bows. I don't have a lot of the smaller bows that I like to use. And once you loop it underneath, I'm going to keep it up a little bit and just stick the little bell, hot glue it right. I'm going to play with that one side of the bow. Just going to do that. And I'm just going to do that for the rest of them. But when I glue this on, this is, I should say, the important part. For me, I guess, I don't know if I'm OCD when I having it right. So when these do get glued on later, so when you are putting this on, I want to try to have the star and two of the side holes facing forward kind of even. Now the star is not even for both sides, but I want the star and the both sides facing this way instead of going this way. Because I think it was this way, yeah. And then I found star, both sides. You could do the opposite too. I just want them all facing, that one's off. See how the star is way on the other side? Oh, this one's a little bit more centered. So this, the star and both that. So when I'm gluing these on, I'm going to have to twist it just because the way it loops is going this way. And I want to face it to the star with the bow. Like that, with the star and both those sides. You'll see what I mean later about that. I like the look of these better now that I've cut them down. I trimmed them down so they're even more on side when it goes, and they're not really touching the H's, sort of, but they're just on an angle to the outer part of the bell. I did cut the little ribbon was straight across, so I did cut it on an angle, and I just think they look so much better than they did. They looked really messy on top, and I guess that's what that I didn't like about the top of them. Now I'm going to use Wellbond, and now I'm going to place them on. As you notice, I am going to use the star as the center point on all three when I do glue them on, as well as the bells and the pine cone. Everything will be centered. Once these are glued on, we'll move on to the last step of adding lights. All right, so when I glued the Wellbond, the bells on, I did leave it overnight because it took a lot. I noticed after even 2 hours, they were still a little bit loose, so I just left it overnight. I think it turned out really well. Trimming the sides to fit in between the H's to make sure you have enough room on the base itself. And actually putting the bow in that looked a lot neater and cleaner of a look, considering that they didn't look as nice. Bending those up, I find just very nice look to it. I was going to add lights. The only thing is I tried playing around with putting them in on the back and there wasn't bright enough. So I'm just going to opt out with that, but you can do that if you want. I just didn't want all the wiring showing too to go through. I always like putting lights on my crafts. This between the H's here, I'm just going to show you here. If you want to measure them out, it's almost 8.5 is what I did here. And then at the end, you'll notice there'll be the spot for 8 and then the 8.5 here, only that the bell is just a little bit, well, it's not even hitting over that much. So it just worked out really well for this board. The last thing we're going to do is add some fake snow. I just thought it will make it pop more, I don't know, give it a nice look on the bottom. I'm just going to use some Mod Podge, and I'm just going to go around the top of it. I'm not going to do the sides because I don't know if you've worked with this snow before, you know when you touch it, it flakes off. So I am not going to touch the front part of the base or the back when holding it. I am just going to do it around the bottom of the bell and in a little bit between the H's, bottom of the H's. All right, guys, here it is. It's finished. I just love how the snow just makes it pop a little bit more and just adds a nice touch to it. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Thanks for watching. Happy crafting and see you soon. Bye.